this thing where I draw every day, for at least 5 minutes. So if I have a very busy day and some shit happens and I'm not able to draw, by the end of the night, I'll pull my sketchbook out and I'll draw for at least 5 minutes. And the reason for that is, like, art is about breaking an illusion, so you need to have as many discoveries to this magic trick as possible. And one time, like, something that really helped me is I had a real big issue with volume. Like, I'm like, all my fucking characters are flat. They're all like really, really flat. Yeah, 60-second poses, yes, but there's stuff that you have to like try to get a grasp on beforehand, because then, like, you know, practice makes perfect, but it's really perfect practice makes perfect. So it's like practice with the intention to get better and doing things in a particular way. And one of which is, when I was drawing, I don't know what it was, I think I might have been drawing a bunch of boxes or circles, but I realized that, like, diagonals dictate space. And so if your character doesn't have any diagonals in the clothing and it's like, you know, shading, it's gonna flatten your character out. And that's what I was doing. I'd have these sketches, and the sketches just felt more robust. They just felt like they had more volume. And then I would color them and they were fucking flat. And I'm like, what is going on? And I would ink them, and the inking was flat. And what was happening is I was getting this, because my lines were so sketchy, in some cases the lines were doing like the wrapping and the diagonals for me, so I felt that. So, you know, the respecting the perspective thing goes along with that, because it's making you, it's forcing you to create diagonal lines to denote distance. You know what I'm saying? And that's important, because then now you have volume. You have volume if you have these diagonal lines. And as a line goes from straight and it starts to go back in space, it gets smaller, smaller. And I think I was waiting at a doctor's office or some shit, and I was just drawing this, or I might have been on the train, and then it just fucking clicked that it was like diagonal lines dictate space, they give you volume. And it was at that point, every drawing after that, like, I draw a guy and his arm would be like out, and I'd be like, oh, and I would be like, that's when I started getting more into the wrapping. But then I was like, okay, well, if the arm is this way, I know it's going back into space like this, and then if I give a diagonal line like this and a diagonal line like that, that's my volume. And so I just kept like keeping that in mind. I would draw a character like, you know, waist or something like this, and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to forget my diagonal lines as I'm like wrapping it. And maybe, like, if this is a chest, peak part of his chest probably going to be there. So when you think about that now with the diagonal lines, right, you start to get volume very easily. Man, that shit made all the difference. And it was just 5 minutes of drawing, but it was like trying to draw things in perspective, trying to really understand it actively. And in just 5 minutes of that time and that one discovery, it changed how I was drawing.